A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Ankita from NASSCOM, and I'm back with the seventh episode of the GTM series. And for today's session, I have with me Mr. Nivas Ravichandran, Product Marketing Manager at Freshworks. Nivas will speak on a very relevant and in-demand topic, which is leveraging inbound marketing to grow in red ocean markets. A great topic to learn to and listen and to learn from. You can ask questions anytime during the session. Devas will might take few in between, but will definitely answer to your queries after his presentation. Also, please leave your feedback post session to help me improve my future webinars. Welcome, Nevas, and over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ankita. Thank you so much for having me on board. Have definitely attended a lot of NASSCOM sessions, but it's the first time I'm being a part of one, so I'm glad. Thank you. So do you just want me to start off, Ankita, or do we just wait for a couple of more minutes for people to join in?
Let's start.
Okay, sure. Cool. So I'm just going to turn off my video and I'll probably bring it back when we need it. So cool. I'm just hoping everyone's able to see my screen. Can you just use the hand raise option on your GoToWebinar if you're able to hear me, or maybe if you're able to see the screen, everyone, or maybe even on.
Right, yes, on please write yes to us so that we are sure that yeah, I got the answers. It's a yes.
Okay, cool. So I'll just yeah, this is a legal disclaimer from NASSCOM. I do not want to be reading it, but I think it's covers mostly for educational purposes only. Ankita, if you have anything to add on, feel free to go ahead on this disclaimer.
I think we are good to go, Nivas. We can go on to the next slide now.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just before we get started, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's my LinkedIn profile name, Nivas Ravichandran. Just start. I've been I take care of product marketing at Freshworks for this product called Fresh Sales. Freshworks is a customer engagement SaaS company. We're headquartered in San Mateo, and we have our office in Chennai. So we started off as Fresh Desk, and we've kind of grown to a multi-product company focusing on customer engagement. So I'll just walk you through what we plan to cover today. On like the couple of topics which we're going to be covering is what are the strategies you need to have in place when you're entering a red ocean market. So when we mean red ocean, we mean really crowded markets with a lot of existing players, and also which means there is good demand. And the second being how to leverage content or inbound marketing to become a leader in that space, and also how to go about distributing content or leverage inbound marketing in the right channels beyond social, right? Social is not the only channel today. We have a lot more channels available. And then we can take questions in the middle or even at the end, depending on maybe let's see if I can probably stop in the middle after completing two of the topics, and then we can jump into them. Cool. So I think I'm going to give it a lot of context with respect to the product I'm working on, so that it doesn't feel like Gyan. We want to be very contextual and give real examples. So we're in the CRM category with Fresh Sales, right? And we're competing with a lot of really large players who've been in the market for close to 20 years now, 15, 20 years. So this is how, this is from G2. So there's a platform called G2 Crowd, which is like a review platform for products. And if you pick up the grid for the CRM category, this is how crowded it is, right? You can take a look at a lot of the other categories. They're not as crowded as this. This is a fairly crowded market with so many players who are fairly mature, who have good revenue, good market, good customer base, all of it, right? So when you're trying to enter into one of these markets, I think the three, yeah, also giving you context. Let's say if you search for CRM software, these are the number of advertisements you see on Google's first page result, right? Which means there are like so many people competing on the ad spends and bidding really high amounts compared to what you're going to be doing. And as a small company or as a company, it's going to be difficult for you to keep increasing the bids and competing with some of these competitors. Right. I'm going to talk about three major strategies when you're entering a crowded market or a red ocean market. So we call it getting invited to the party. So which means, let's say, take any category for that matter, right? Say, for example, mobile phones. You'll only be able to remember when you need to buy a mobile phone, you'll only be able to remember 3 to 4 brands at a particular period of time, right? You'll probably say Apple, Samsung, MI, and maybe OnePlus, right? Similarly is the way for software, right? They might have they might use tools to search and get results, but on top of their mind, if you are not present as a brand, it really affects. You don't even get into the evaluation criteria, right? You lose out. Like, so what we believe is, let's say if there are 4 leaders in a particular category, we need to become one as early as possible, and we need to go after one of them to make sure we are in that league of leaders and not just playing as an individual character, right? A great example for this is when the Linux versus Microsoft battle happened in like a couple of years ago. It was not Linux or Microsoft that lost or either won the game, but it was more of all the other players in the middle who lost, like the Sun Systems, all of the other smaller ducks that were more like sitting ducks who kind of lost. The second important aspect you need to, or strategy you need to play is, because these are crowded spaces, these are red ocean markets, they also come with a lot of search volume, right? Be it either paid or non-paid, you need to be on top of it and say, okay, I'm going to leverage search as much as I can. And the third aspect, or the third strategy that you need to play into is, because these are red ocean markets or crowded markets, you need to make sure you play a volume game. Go after larger numbers rather than just looking at, okay, I'll close so many, or I'll add so many customers or so, right? These are the 3 broad strategies that I think any product that wants to enter into a red ocean market needs to have in place. I'll also walk you through how you can leverage content or inbound marketing, for that matter, to become a leader in this space, right? What does it take to become a leader when you're in a category, right? The leaders in that space speak about you. You have to have a lot of visibility in front of your audience and all of this, right? So I'm just going to walk you through some of the examples that we've done at Freshworks, not really putting out our product in terms of a selling, definitely not a pitch, but just examples, just some examples. You could have other examples. Would love to discuss about them later, but here are some which we did. So one of the series which we did was called The Secret Sauce to Sales, where we kind of interviewed sales leaders from different companies like Zoom, Evernote, very popular brands, right? And started understanding how their sales teams function, right? These are really big brands: Zoom, Evernote, Grammarly, Quora, Wistia, Calendly. And we put out these type of articles where we said, okay, how did Zoom grow from 1 to 50 million, or how PandaDog grew from 1 million to 10 million in 2 years, right? And when we did this, what happened was a lot of the people who are following these big brands started looking at our content and were starting to look at, oh, okay, so this is how they've cracked the model, how PandaDog or how Zoom or how an Evernote grew. What helped us was because these brands were kind of on our content, people also were like, okay, this is a dependable CRM product, because they're creating content which kind of it's more of they're understanding my problem today, that okay, this is how I'm trying to scale my team, and they're putting out content in that aspect. Another angle which we also took was creating a lot of thought leadership webinars. These are some of the really big sales leaders in the industry, people like Aaron Ross from Predictable Revenue. And also, I just want to go back to this particular aspect, right? A lot of the times when I've presented this, people have asked me, hey, it's not that easy for a brand to get in front of these people. I agree, definitely not. Maybe, I mean, you might think, hey, Freshworks is a large brand. That might be the reason why these guys are coming on board to do an interview with you guys. But on the other side, you need to look at it from this angle. We did not approach the CEOs of this company. We approached the sales leaders, right? How often do you read articles or do you read PR about a sales leader within a company, or any function leader within that company for that matter, right? It's the CEO that gets a lot of attention, but all the other leaders do not get so much attention. So it is possible for you to get in front of them, and with the right email and the right message, you can actually bring them on board for the interview series. Similarly, when you're reaching out to these webinars, speakers for these webinars, you need to get the right messaging. It need not be about the brand. It's not about just because it was Freshworks that these people came on board, but it's also because you just have to be at the right place to send the right message and at the right time. So Aaron Ross is the author of this book called Predictable Revenue, and we asked him to come on board and speak about the book, and he was willing to do that. So what happened was we were able to tap into his audience with Aaron Ross, or be it John Barrows, and they started spreading the word about the webinar to their audience, and we were able to kind of get in front of their audience without any difficulty. So at a point of time, we did a good number of webinars on sales leadership. We covered a lot of different topics, and we did not restrict it to pure sales, right? Over here, you can also see on the third row, you'd see Rand Fishkin, who's like an SEO person, and Wade Foster, who's the CEO of Zapier, right? But what we kind of felt was just not sales leaders, but also founders were very important for us, because a lot of the founders were evaluating our product. So we kind of did topics that were relevant to founders, and we kind of put it out in front of them, and it worked really well for us. Another aspect, or more like an idea that we came up with, is do a lot of these interviews and create like an online virtual summit, right? What we did was we interviewed close to 35 sales leaders, and we compiled it together and put it like an online event. We called it the High Velocity Sales Summit, and we obviously gated it so that people are able to register. And what happened is all these people who were speaking in the summit kind of shared it in front of their audience, and because we were creating a lot of buzz about it, there was a huge amount of registrations, and this was not done with a lot of budget in place. This was done at a very minimal budget, but we were able to garner a lot of registrations, very top of the funnel audience, but still we were able to convert them into bottom of the funnel through different nurture follow-up campaigns. And a very cool thing that you can also leverage is leveraging the power of video and the power of crowd. One of the really interesting things which we did as part of the High Velocity Sales Summit is we got about 50 to 100 people within our company to make a quick video on LinkedIn talking about the summit and post it on their profiles. And what happened was a lot of people, you can see a lot of the faces from Freshworks posting these videos, and it became super viral among their audience. And what happened was, let's say one of my friends posted it, I liked and commented, it went to my feed, and it just kept multiplying. We got a huge number of views and visibility just because of, and in fact, the best part is it was at zero spends, right? There was literally $0 spent on this entire thing, and us just having a good number of employees was just the way for us to kind of kick this off. Another content idea that you need to start doing is putting together good listicles, right? We created this listicle called 25 plus sales influencers to follow on LinkedIn. We did our research on who are the most active people, what content are they posting, how are they posting it, and things like that. And we put out a very detailed listicle. Also, what we did was, before we published the listicle, we went to all these people, these influencers, and we asked them saying, hey, we put this list together. Once we publish it, will you be willing to share the article? So because they were also they had vested interest into it, where once the article was published, they were getting a lot of visibility. Everyone shared it in their newsletter, their social, and to their audience as well. So which kind of gave us a lot more visibility. And anyone who was searching for it, this also kind of helped in terms of search, where whenever people were searching for search sales influencers to follow, we started showing up. So because we're in the CRM market, we realized a lot of the people who are signing up or who are trying to access our product are people who are just setting up either on Product Hunt or just setting up their lead generation channels today. So what we did was we went on to create a very detailed guide about how to generate leads on Product Hunt. And we put it out over there, and we kind of shared it with almost all the folks who were launching on Product Hunt on a daily basis. And what this did was they kind of got to know about this entire guide, and also this kind of created interest towards Freshsales, the product, and they started looking at, hey, what does this even do? Like, for example, remember this, right? When you're probably consuming a good piece of content anywhere, and you realize you see great value out of it, then automatically what you do is you look at which brand created that piece of content. So that kind of helped us in our favor. We decided, let's put great content, keep adding value, and just leave the rest to the consumers. And that's what happened in this particular case, where we put out a couple of guides around where people will be spending more time right before using our product. Quora can also be a great platform. There are generally a lot of questions based on your category, where people ask, hey, which is a great tool, which is a great software, which is a great product, how do you do this, how do you do that? It's a good practice to just go and answer questions on Quora. It's probably not as active as it was a couple of years ago, but I would say it's a great platform because one of the reasons is I still remember there was this question about which is the best CRM software for startups, and irrespective of all the other search pages that were available, Quora's answer page was available first on Google, and because our answer was there, we were getting a lot of sign-ups or product page visits just from those answers. Another slightly more bottom of the funnel, because when people are evaluating, they want to compare you with other products, as well as make sure they understand how existing customers of yours have reviewed you guys or have spoken about you guys. So make sure you cover all the product review platforms as well. Get your customers to be writing reviews on these platforms, just how a Google review or an Uber review would work. Just make sure you get these reviews. And what you need to really do is build on top of these reviews. Sometimes some of these platforms like G2 Crowd, for example, gives out nice badges every summer or every winter. So what we did was every time when they gave it for a particular season, we kind of wrote a blog article on top of it and said, hey, G2 Crowd lists Freshsales top CRM for small business. So we just wanted to bank on that opportunity and keep building on top of it. Also, this is a very important thing because there's a lot of crowd in this market. You need to make sure you build credibility for your product, right? If you're a very small company, you definitely want to leverage these badges and these recognitions. So make sure you put them on your homepage or any of the relevant pages that are targeting audience in the right sector. Yeah. Couple of more things, because search is going to be a super important area. Make sure you create industry pages which are very focused on search as well. We created pages around multiple categories, and also if you have a decent customer base, put together a good survey. This is something which we also would recommend. Like speak in terms of, let's say, a little bit in terms of future, say what CEOs expect from their IT leaders, a 2019 survey report, which means whoever is an IT leader and is kind of feeling that, hey, I'm kind of missing out because I'm not reading this report, right? Create a little bit of a FOMO and put together these reports. So the most important aspect of inbound marketing, right? You can create a lot of content and you can create a lot of collaterals, but if you don't have a great pricing page where you're talking about the benefits and being very transparent upfront, where they can decide without having to speak to a sales agent or a support agent, it kind of helps them make decisions faster, right? And it's always good, because if you're playing the volume game, you need to make sure you have a pricing page which kind of clears a lot of queries rather than adding to the sales queue for your sales agents. So I mean, Freshworks has always believed in a very transparent pricing page, and yeah. Also, if you have customers who are very happy, do get as many case studies as you can, even if they're very small companies, right? For example, a pretty interesting thing over here, which we did was Shortlist was the name of the SaaS startup in California. We could have just named this case study as how Shortlist cut cost by 50% in sustained growth with fresh sales. But you also need to realize there's always something called a star element in every piece of content. Like, for example, when we did these webinars, the speaker was the star content for us and not the topic. So you would see in the webinar cards or in the webinar the pages, the speaker would get a lot of prominence. So similarly over here for us, we felt, hey, I think a lot of California-based SaaS startups would relate to this. So we kind of use the word how California SaaS startup Shortlist cut cost by 50% and sustained growth with fresh sales. I kind of come to the next aspect of it. Ankita, do we have any questions?
No, Nivas, not as of now.
Cool. I'm just hoping it's this is useful. If you can probably just ping on chat saying, hey, it's going good.
Sure.
I just want to get some quick feedback because I don't want to kind of make everything go over the head. So we have a good number of attendees. I'm happy about that. Just that.
It's going good.
Okay, perfect.
Let's
Yeah. A very weird thing is I'm not able to see these chat or questions, but it's okay. I'm hoping you will cover me on that. So I'm just going to go back into this. So a lot of the times we kind of create content for inbound marketing and say, you know what? Okay, now I've created it, and I'm going to wait for all the people to read my content or consume my content in different formats, right? Content is like product. Just because you created it doesn't mean it'll automatically sell or it'll automatically market itself. You have to do your own set of marketing and distribution for it. So I kind of believe in this aspect about, hey, if you're spending 20% of your time creating that content, you have to spend at least 4x of your efforts on distributing it. Because if you've really created a great piece of content and not distributing it, you're doing the content a huge piece of injustice, right? So I'm going to talk about certain channels on social, beyond social, that you could use to distribute and get a lot more inbound leads. The first thing that we need to realize, right? Organic reach on social is dead, right? It's only ads that are frequently coming up or just people's posts, right? Let's say a couple of years ago, if your brand had put out a post on Facebook, it'll reach like a decent amount of audience. But today, when you scroll through your feed, how often do you actually see posts from businesses? You only see posts from people, or you also want to only see posts from people, but you also see ads from businesses. Honestly, social ads have not worked very well for us in some of the campaigns that we've done. So I think Zuck is the only guy making money on those advertisements, is what I feel. Also, when you're distributing it, sometimes people have this tendency saying, okay, you know what, we're a very B2B brand, we're a B2C brand, we're a B2B product, we're a B2C product. But you need to realize at the end of the day, even on the other side, right? Like, let's say, be it whatever type of customer, it's a B2C or a B2B customer, there is a human on the other side making the decisions, right? There is definitely human. There's definitely human to human approach that you can pick up over here on what are the challenges faced by those humans. How can I help them? How can how can I keep them engaged? All those things are things that you can definitely consider while making these distribution channels. So this is an example of a case study, right? Generally, how do you see companies promoting case studies? They'll probably put out the link saying, hey, this company did this company did that, and all of that, right? But we kind of took an alternate route to it and said, okay, let's build a story on top of it, right? There is definitely a story for every case study. So we said, okay, let's come up with a story. We said, okay, Steve Cobb was the person who's our customer, and he has this company called Drive, right? So we said, okay, Steve Cobb visited Perth, Australia for a holiday and fell in love with the city. We kind of did a nice story from it, and we said, okay, it was a pleasure. In the end, it says it was a pleasure working with Steve Cobb and implementing Fresh Sales CRM for the Drive. And this was not someone from the marketing team or someone random, right? This was the actual account manager who kind of closed the deal and who we made put out this post. What happened was a lot of the people who were his network obviously liked it, and also because Steve Cobb was tagged, a lot of people from his audience also started commenting or liking on it. Generally, when we make a post about case study, you would not see a lot of views, but you'd see over here there were about 6,200 views for this particular post on LinkedIn. These views count can be a little can be a super vanity metric. Don't go by those, but just go by page visits. Like for example, over here, the LinkedIn URL will kind of pop into with we use UTM codes to kind of track them. And also don't worry about using emojis or not. Keep it limited because you still you want to play to the brand. But if you're posting from an individual account, go ahead, feel free to do it because people like reading about people rather than about just companies. Images seem to work really well on LinkedIn. And avoid using link thumbnails. Sometimes when you post on LinkedIn, you kind of post the URL and it kind of auto populates into a thumbnail. But what it does is it kind of ruins the reach of the post because LinkedIn prevents people from bouncing off LinkedIn, right? So they would never want a thumbnail, a link thumbnail to go as popular as an image or any other engaging post, right? And the most important thing for when you're creating images is it only shows the first two lines. So you need to keep it super crisp and make sure it grabs attention. Videos seem to be working really well. It's definitely on the high rise for definitely LinkedIn from a very professional standpoint. If you're a B2C brand which is creating content, you can do it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. All of them seem to be working really well today for videos. So in fact, this is a very small example where when I did a post for this, I got close to 25, 30 likes and people registering for it or people clicking on it. But when I did a video, because my face was on top of it, people from my network had to pay attention to it to say, oh, okay, what is Nivas saying or what is this person saying? So in fact, that was the same example we used on the promotion tactics for our high velocity summit, where we wanted, like, if you're really invested into that initiative, you're going to put a video unless you'll just make a normal post, right? And that kind of showed the commitment from our team, and that kind of helped increase our reach for the summit as well. Because you're playing in the crowded space, you got to go after the search and use. I'm not really doing an affiliate marketing here, but Ahrefs is a great tool. We use it here to kind of do keyword search volume. How difficult is it? How many people search for it? From which countries? And all of those things. It kind of helps you to get those perspectives. Yeah. Some of the other distribution hacks, these are smaller hacks, but kind of worked for us. So when we did put together this webinar about predictable revenue with Aaron Ross, what we did was, in fact, one of his most recent books had come out, and we said, okay, you know what, we're going to give out a couple of copies of this book for people who are sharing or tweeting or posting about this. So we sent out an email to all the registered attendees. It was not to everyone, but just to the registered registrations. And we sent out this email saying, thanks for signing up. We're giving away free copies of his latest book. That's right. Spread the word about our upcoming webinar with Aaron Ross and stand a chance to win a free copy. And we also made it very comfortable for them. We gave them relevant tweets, pre-populated tweets and messages automatically. So in fact, we had a lot of people posting about this webinar saying, hey, join me along with Fresh Sales for a webinar with Aaron Ross, best-selling author of Predictable Revenue. And this kind of created like a huge avalanche effect for us, where a lot of people started registering. They got this email, they saw this, and they were like, okay, let me also post. So this was a huge boost for us. And this kind of saw one of the highest registrations ever for our webinars. Another non-scalable hack is we did a webinar again with one of the book authors. We realized some of these people who had written books. So and we figured out a lot of the people were tweeting about the book, saying finally listening. So this is Rand Fishkin. He was this former CEO of Moz. So he'd written a book called Lost in Founder. So what we did was whoever tweeted about that book, in a very positive way, we went to them and this was not automated, this was done very manually, but it gave us a lot of good responses. So we said, hey Stephanie, we're bringing Rand on a webinar to share some of his insights. insights and talk about the book. Would you be interested to attend? Her response was, oh, you're good. Haha, I should attend just because you did a great outreach. So I'm just repeating one fact, right? People think cold outreach sucks, right? I mean, or cold outreach is dead, right? It's not that cold outreach is dead. It's just that poorly customized or poorly optimized cold outreach is still dead. But if you are able to put that effort for people and put the content or put anything in front of them, they're definitely going to appreciate it. Another small tip over here: do not drop links, because if you're going to be sending links to a lot of people over tweets, Twitter will definitely ban you. So instead, just drop an image where, again, over here you'll see the star factor being Rand Fishkin, who's the popular face over here. So you would see that being highlighted more than the topic or anything else. Growth hackers is I think it's kind of having a small decline, but it's a great platform to kind of put your content out there, get a lot of people to view it, and they also have a huge newsletter base which they kind of send out these articles to, or articles or videos or whatever type of content that you've created, and this gets a lot more visibility. So this is a hidden treasure for a lot of people, right? People think, hey, where else can I post, or where else can I distribute my content to get more leads or get more visibility? Slack groups, there are a lot of Slack groups. There's actually a blog about the list of Slack groups. There's some 300, 400 Slack groups, which are very specific to very specific communities. Like, for example, this one is about social media engagement by Buffer, and there is about something about unicorns. There is something about growth marketing. There's something about different sales, different topics and different channels. So what you need to do is become active in these communities. Don't blatantly promote, but engage with these people. And sometimes there's generally a channel called shameless promotions, and where you can ask them for a couple of first few upvotes or shares, just to get the content spread to a lot more. And please pay it forward to the community by whenever there are requests, make sure you are also accepting those requests. Facebook groups is becoming a huge positive today. In fact, today I spend a lot of my time on Facebook just for the groups and nothing else. So there are a lot of these very active communities and groups on Facebook where you can actually promote some of the content, but make sure you abide by the guidelines of the particular group. So for example, over here, this is a group called Remote Work and Jobs for Digital Nomads. Because we did a webinar about how to build a remote company, and we got one of the most popular faces, the CEO of Zapier. So we decided to, before we even posted, we went to the admin and we said, hey, we're going to be putting together this webinar. Is it fine for us to put this over here? Because they hate links to other pieces of content where it's kind of disengaging the community. So I checked with them, and they said, you know what, this is a great piece of webinar, and we'd love to promote it over here. So they agreed to put it up over here. So also, when you're creating a content and you want a lot of people to be sharing, because there's so much content out there, there's so much in the form of video, in the form of audio, in the form of text, it's very difficult to get people to share someone else's content, right? So I have this, it's not really like a scalable strategy, but when you want to share, ask for feedback, right? When you ask for feedback, what would they say? If they say it's bad, go ahead and work on it. If they say it's great, the moment they say great, it means they really appreciate the content. You can be like, hey, do you think you can share it or tweet about it in front of your audience so that it reaches your audience? If you think it does add value to your audience. And when you need feedback, ask for share, right? When you ask them to share, they'll be like, you know what, this piece of content sucks, or this piece of content is great, right? So because you're asking them to perform an action, they're going to give you feedback before they even do that. So this is kind of a small hack. I kind of, it's just figured out on the way. Okay, so a lot of the times when people create content for inbound marketing, they get into this place where they say, okay, you know what, let me come up with an idea, let me come up with the content, and then I'll come up with the promotion techniques, right? Or how do I go about promoting this particular piece of content? I would say invert it a little. As soon as you come up with the idea, come up with a list of promotion tactics. Make a fairly large list. If you think there aren't enough, don't go about creating the content, because you'll be wasting time putting together a great content. And if you don't think it's going to be absorbed or consumed by a lot of people, then it doesn't make sense for you to be able to create it. There's also a very interesting hack that a lot of people can leverage, but it's a very underutilized channel, right? There are multiple niche newsletters out there in the space. Like for example, even NASSCOM, right? NASSCOM Chennai might have a newsletter. NASSCOM, different cities might have different newsletters, and some of the times they have this 5-column newsletter which they plan to send, and majority of the times they might still be looking for small pieces of content to get added to the 5th or the 4th column or 5th column or somewhere, right? It's good to reach out to these people and ask them, saying, hey, are they if they find value out of this content, are they willing to share it, right? Irrespective of the brand that puts out the content, if it does add value, they're going to be doing it. And avoid getting into the paid cycle, because or if it's even a very small pay, it's fine, but large pay newsletters didn't seem to work very well for us. I'll also talk to it with an example. But what happened was, we found these very niche newsletters like Remotive for remote working. A lot of I have like multiple examples offline, so where we kind of leveraged our audience through these channels. So as I mentioned, we realize a lot of people are spending a lot of time on Product Hunt before evaluating our product. So we decided to use Product Hunt as much as we can to kind of keep talking about if we did we did something called Fresh Sales 2.0, we thought, okay, let's hunt it. Or if we had like new really large features that we wanted to put out, we kind of put it out on Product Hunt. So also another thing is, you need to remember, right, when you're asking for a lot of shares, or when you're asking requests from people, you're going to send a request for interviewing people or any of that sort. You can be shameless, right? You have to be shameless, but you cannot be spamming. So you just need to, just a second. Okay, yeah. This is kind of my last part of the slide, where I kind of talk about what did not work really well for us. I think I've kind of finished in a little early. Yeah, sorry, was just getting a call. So 3 angles that did not really work well for us was the paid newsletters angle. We did engage with a couple of paid newsletters, but did not really work in our favor. And the other thing was, hello? Okay, so and
carry on.
Yeah. So, and another angle which we did was, we for all of these webinars, the content and everything, we tried a lot of social ads, and even we felt, okay, you know what, if we put together a large summit, people might respond to our social ads. But we have honestly not seen a lot of great responses for the social ads. People seem to work more on search, or is it just that we've not cracked it properly, or that sort? And also, one of the things I see on a very strong decline is the concept of infographics, because I feel it's not very search optimized. And even if you create a very large, very fancy infographic, it's not really consumable by a lot of people, because it's not available on search, right? So because of which, or another angle that you can bring to it is, you can add like a nice like a brief of the infographic as part of a blog article and make it search optimized. But otherwise, if you're not doing that, then infographics don't seem to work really well for us. Okay, I want to leave with this note. I think a lot of the people immediately look at marketing strategies or inbound marketing and say, you know what, okay, let's identify 3 channels and go about very scalable channels, and we'll say we'll execute all of them, right? But the most important thing you need to realize is, if you're thinking like that, all the others are thinking like in the same direction, right? They're going to be probably leveraging on 1 or 2 channels. Everyone's going to leverage on those channels. In fact, if I've mentioned a couple of channels today, a lot of them are going to be trying to leverage the channels that I mentioned today. So you need to also think slightly out of the box and think about what are some non-scalable strategies, very least scalable strategies, and because those can become the most effective. For example, the Twitter outreach that we did, right? We pushed out close to 280, 300 tweets to all the people who tweeted about the Rand Fishkin book. What we realized was, not a single person actually came back and said, why are you spamming me, right? We spent close to an hour and a half to be reaching out to these people. But the part was we got close to 60 to 70 registrants just from that outreach that we did, which is a fantastic outcome compared to all the other channels that we had in place. I'm just hoping it was helpful, and I wanted to kind of close it early because I would be able to take some questions, and love to be connected on LinkedIn with the people who are attending. Happy to see attendees still saying back. Great, thank you so much. I just wish I was able to see the chat also. I'm just not able to see the chat over here.
You want to look at the questions, Nivas? You want to look at the questions which audience are asking, or you want me to read them? Because people have asked
them, honestly, Ankita.
Pardon, can you just come again? I'll just missed you for a second. Nivas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm not able to read the see the questions here on the GoToWebinar.
I haven't given you those rights, so if you want to, look at those questions, just wait for a second. I'm just giving you the presenter, the organizer rights. Just a second.
And just for the audience, would love to hear feedback on whatever I presented. If you think some things worked very well for you, some things did not, because I would have loved to see. Yes, I can see the question now.
Yeah, all right.
So Nadeem asks a question about what would be the best way to market the content for a B2B SaaS product. I think I've spoken about decent amount of examples. I wouldn't say there are direct channels available. This was more for a sales audience. If it is for, he says the product is for more technical. I think you need to realize just one aspect of it, right? Where are my audience spending a lot of their time? It could be Stack Overflow. It could be I'm honestly not a techie, so I really don't know where people are spending time. But you know what? The most interesting thing is they spend a lot of time in these meetups, community meetups, and all of these places. If it's a very developer related product, if it's not, I might be getting this wrong, but if it's a developer related product, look at the small communities. Where are my audience spending a lot of their time is something that you definitely need to look at. I'm going to go on to the next question. Yeah, so Sabari has this question on, do you think influencers would help in inbound marketing? So influencers, do not engage them to endorse your brand. That does not work because, like, for example, even if I am being asked, or let's say, just imagine your case also, let's say you're being asked to endorse a product. Today, B2B does not work just because someone endorsed a product, right? It does not work that way. And you do not want to endorse a poor or a bad product, right? So it is always important. Like, for example, today products like Slack or Zoom get a lot of visibility because they're good products, right? I want to feel, or I want to look good in front of my friends more than, or in front of my audience more than me trying to make some quick money out of influencers. But I think influencers you need to tap into their audience to kind of do a lot more learning methods. Like, for example, the webinars which we did were never very product focused. We did it to understand best sales practices or best sales strategies, and that kind of worked really well for us. I hope I'm just answering the question. Feel free to add on to the question later. Amit has this question: is social media post done by product marketing team or by SDRs? You can do both. So for us, we kind of also believe in, if you have created the content, you also need to figure out how to market it, right? That's like someone else doing the shady job for you while you're doing just the content creation. And we feel only when you realize the difficulties in distributing the content will you also optimize your content in such a way that it kind of gets in front of more audience. So we don't really have like an SDR team to be doing just a social media post. They definitely do because they would want the leads and not just because we ask them to, or it's not that way. Yeah, so for one-to-one on LinkedIn for lead generation, it's mostly done by SDRs. Okay, so there's a question on its product marketing team. Does product marketing team reach out to one-to-one on LinkedIn for lead generation? We don't really reach out one-to-one as product marketing. It's mostly done by the SDRs because they want to be generating more leads, outbound leads. We do reach out to these speakers. We reach out to people who want to be interested to attend some of the sessions or content. So that's something which we still do. We have a question from Varun Rawat. Can you share an example or use case or past experience of implementing a content strategy in a low volume environment? Okay, so you need to kind of optimize. Content strategy still works for low volume environment. It's just that search might not be your best friend over there, but you still can create really strong pieces of content and send it to. You'll have to do a little more of one-to-one reaching out. Like for example, let's say this is yours is a very mid-market product, and only sales leaders are going to be looking at it. But also you need to realize if let's say even just one person reads it and finds value out of it, you're going to get a higher deal size or larger deal size. So that's something which you need to look at. And this kind of I can probably dive in deeper later, maybe a one-to-one. I mean, we could take this offline on how you could distribute, but it's mostly just good LinkedIn outreach to these people, because they don't have the time to be reading or searching for blogs. If you bring it in front of them, sometimes if it's a good value piece, then they are going to appreciate it. We have a question from Ashok. How do you track or know which one worked? Are there analytical tools? Of course, there is analytics. Some of the channels you cannot measure all the way till the end. We definitely use UTM codes in almost everything. I think I forgot to add the slide about Google Analytics. Google Analytics is like God for us. We take a look at it almost every day just to understand how our content is performing or how our videos are performing. We use different channels to make sure I would still say we're not that sophisticated in certain of the tracking of the marketing channels, but we do a decent amount of tracking with Google Analytics, UTM codes, and we also use a marketing automation software to be able to track them from as soon as you they sign up for a webinar, register for a webinar, to all the way to product buying. Okay, Vishnu has a question. Hey Vishnu, so for a young enterprise SaaS startup, would you recommend running Google Ads over LinkedIn? I would say don't start off with Google Ads because, okay, actually I would say don't even spend on ads initially. It looks very lucrative and looks very fancy, but I would say identify enough number of organic channels, at least for the first few months. I understand it's going to be a crunch because you're not getting leads. People are going to be, there's going to be a business crunch, but because if you don't figure it out right, you'll get into this circle of just spending on Google ads or LinkedIn ads, and it'll keep giving you good leads, but you also need to figure out at least a couple of good organic channels to figure out or get your leads. If you're not, I think you'll just go into this circle of just spending on Google ads or LinkedIn ads. How did Slack groups work out for Freshworks? It was not our best channel, but I would say it was a new channel. It was very surprising. What happened was a lot of people started sharing our content, and we were able to engage with them. So we were very clear that we will not just go there and promote or just do very shameless promotion, but we also did do a lot of engaging, and we were able to learn a lot, honestly. Yeah. Vishnu again has another question. If you're an enterprise SaaS startup with very little marketing spend available, what would be the top 3 activities to pursue? I would still keep it to understanding where your audience lies, right? Don't go into the paid route directly. Take a little bit of organic just to understand, hey, what are the things can I do, right? It could be a little slower. I mean, organic definitely is a slower channel compared to paid, but it kind of helps on the longer run because you've at least identified some channels. I would say experiment a few channels. I cannot recommend the top 3 channels today, top 3 activities. It's just that you will have to experiment at least a few of them before you figure out what really works for you. Aditya has a question. So has targeting towards California companies actually increased the number of customers? I understand why it works, but curious to see if it actually increased business, since it's very specific, right? Honestly, we were not able to track that because it kind of we did see a good number of page views for that particular case study, but we were not very sure if it's because of this or because of that. We do need to try out a couple of things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. We were not very sure whether it works because of this particular reason or not. And Aditya works at Freshworks, so hey Aditya. So Ravali has a question. So what if your company works on instant quotation? How can we make it transparent over here? Cool. So I totally understand from where you're coming. The part is that you can keep it transparent about, hey, we don't charge for these things, we don't charge for these things, or at least mention those instead of just listing out your entire pricing. The only reason why we put out a pricing page is to avoid a sales queue happening, because we cater to large volumes and we don't want to be just queuing up that for salespeople to be answering very specific questions just related to pricing. But we want to be able to enable them to help the customers further. Cool. I've just been getting a lot of feedback. I forgot to read. Aditya, Sumit, Michael, thank you. Manoj, thank you. Amit, thank you. Aishwarya, Imtiaz, Michael, Nayan, Saurabh. Yeah, I think I've answered all the questions. I don't seem to have missed any. But this was, I really liked engaging with you guys. Oh, okay, there are a couple of more questions. Sorry, my bad.
There are more questions, Nivas.
Yeah. I was kind of going in the reverse order, so I didn't realize. Yeah. Any top 3 tools you recommend? Tools as in, I would say Google Analytics, of course, but okay, I'll probably dive in a little deeper when you're doing a lot of inbound marketing, right? Get Sketch. If you're a Mac user, get Sketch, because don't depend on design all the time for making small things in terms of design or in terms of putting together small pieces of design collaterals. Use Sketch or Grammarly. I'm not a great writer, to be honest, so I kind of use Grammarly to make sure my grammar and other things are done right. If you're using WordPress as your blog platform, use Yoast SEO, Yoast. This kind of gives you a better perspective on how your blog is performing from a search standpoint. Social media ads will be worth for B2B marketing. Honestly, it didn't work for us, so I don't know. If it's worked for someone else, I would love to hear the use case in the case study on whether it worked for someone else better. So, but it still hasn't. I mean, at least for some of the things that we've run, it's not given us great results. What's the best affiliate marketing which worked out for fresh sales? I am honestly not the best person to be answering this question. Happy to help out if it's something that's concerning your business. You can reach out to us and I can probably connect you to the person who's handling our affiliate marketing. I know we use a tool. I don't know whether we've seen great results. I can actually check and let you know. So Michael has another question. How to reach the right set of audience to social media if a product is new? I think I'll repeat this, right? You need to figure out where your audience spend a lot of time. If you don't understand your audience persona first, then you cannot figure out where they spend their time. Let's say if there are a lot of these groups, right? Even for people who are, let's say you are doing a survey product, right? Figure out who's the persona behind it. Doesn't matter what product you sell, figure out what are the personas you want to go after and where do you think they would spend a lot of their time. Speak to people, speak to your customers, speak to your prospects and understand that. I think that's helped us a lot, where in fact some of the new channels that we got were like, oh my God, we felt very dumb that we did not think about these channels earlier, but when we spoke to customers, we were like, oh shucks, that was such an easy channel we could have leveraged, but we were not thinking about it for a very long time. We have another question from Sushovan. Nivas, what do you think? What is the most effective channel for promoting your product? So for us, Google search has been a great channel for promoting our product. It's definitely given us a lot of non-paid, for that matter. Paid, the spends are a little high because we're in the CRM market, but the non-paid search has definitely given us a lot of good results. And I think it also differs from business to business. My answer is probably not going to be the answer for everyone else. So Sabari says, thank you. Thank you so much, Sabari. For Surya Venkat has a question. What might be a good number of posts to be promoted in Twitter per day? uh, I think Twitter as such has a little lesser engagement effect. You can do 3 to 4, starting from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, to all the way to 8 to 10. But I don't think it's about the number of posts you make. I don't think it should be about that. Try to see if you can engage with people even on a 1:1 basis, right? That will be super helpful for your business. So Amit has another question. Does inbound work for high ticket SaaS? I think it's a very mixed answer. Inbound is still where you create a piece of content or strategy, and then you do how you distribute it is what matters at the end of the day, right? Like for example, if you're going to be doing very 1:1 distribution and bringing them back to the piece of content and then converting them, it's still inbound marketing, and it still works for a lot of the businesses. They just do it in different formats. And it need not be just a PDF or so. It could be a great video resource. It could be a great thing. I think there are enough companies that have cracked inbound marketing with high ticket SaaS as well. Just that maybe their reach is not very focused on the glow. Like for example, maybe when they make a post on social, it's not going to be understood or relevant for a lot of the audience. Whereas for an SMB product, it'll be relevant for more audience. Michael again asked a question about, does Google Ads help in the initial reach? I honestly, I think I'll stick to my answer where it is not very. I would recommend using non-paid channels first. Nadeem has a question. You mentioned a few platforms does not work for paid marketing. Which platform would be worth spending money for B2B SaaS? I think there's no direct answer for this. It's going to be a little mixed answer. I think honestly, we've not spent money on any of the channels which have seen great results, right? But I would still say go ahead with newsletters, because that's at least where we knew, hey, our audience are at least over there. Maybe we just picked up the wrong newsletters. If we had picked up the right newsletters, we might have gotten more impact. And there's a question from Krishna about, does getting featured in research publications or reports help? Yes, if your audience are there. Like for example, I think high ticket SaaS, if your audience are not reading your story, let's say you get a PR on your story, it really doesn't matter. And let's say your audience is in the US, your PR is going to go in vain. Maybe you might get a lot more job applications or maybe a little more investor interest, but does not really help from an audience perspective. So make sure you target places where your audience are, and that makes more sense rather than just going after PR where it's just very generic, right? It works really well for Freshworks. We do a lot of PR because we are focused on a larger market. We're focused, like, I mean, I think I really like how Girish puts it. He says we're not targeting the Fortune 500. We're targeting the less fortunate 2 million companies that are out there, right? So Vishnu says, thanks for the insights. Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you so much for joining. Nayan, hi Nayan. A very good session. Thank you so much for this. Do you think door-to-door marketing and sales pitches are dead? I think that's about field sales, right? Field sales, I think it's still sales and not marketing. I think I've never been in that industry or space. Wouldn't really want to comment on it, but I think there are a decent number of companies who are trying to crack that space in different formats. But I think in India, with the penetration of tech that's happening, I think it's very easy for us to penetrate through tech rather than door to door. But if you think door to door marketing can be like an out of the box idea, go ahead and do it. You never know. Sometimes it may just work really well in your favor. How about Bing for B2B? Honestly, I'm not the person. I've generally gone with Google because it's this, right? You optimize for 80% of your results. I know Google has majority of my search volume, so I just go with Google. I've never really looked at Bing. I mean, from my works, I could check with other people at Freshworks who've done very specific optimizing for Bing. Thanks, Mano, for the question. Hey, Abhinita. Abhinita has a question. Have you ever explored user-generated content in a marketing strategy? Yes, of course. So what you can definitely do is, okay, I don't know what you mean by user-generated content, but I was thinking more like, let's say, if based on their usage of the product or usage of, let's say, a particular category, we've kind of created reports and insights, and we've kind of helped spread them. If that's not what you're asking, we can take this question offline. I actually need to rush as well, but I'm just receiving a lot of thanks. Ashok, Amit says thanks. Thank you so much, Amit. Mano says using tools for distribution would be good for B2B or manual distribution. I would say initially just start off with manual distribution just to get the hang of it on what really works and what does not work. After that, you can easily automate. There are some ways to automate, but honestly, the fun of doing it manual, right? And when you see those results on the let's say it could be signups, it could be registrations, it could be whatever. It's kind of really powerful. Michael has a question on what are your thoughts on Reddit? Reddit.
Just to intervene, I think now that this should be the last question. We have a hard stop at 3:30.
Right. This is the last question. Yeah. So at least according to whatever I see over here, there's thanks that are coming in. Thank you so much, guys. So I'll just pick up Michael's question. That'll be the last question. What are your thoughts on Reddit? Reddit. Don't promote on Reddit. People kind of ban you very quickly. But try to engage. Honestly, across all these channels, right? Don't promote. Try engaging. Like for example, even these Facebook groups. After initially I was looking for channels to promote, but then once I started being a member over there, I think I felt I added a lot more value and I received a lot more value from that rather than just doing posting of one-to-one. So thank you so much, everyone. I've been receiving a lot of thanks messages. Yeah, Ankita, over to you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Nivas, for this great presentation. Each and every slide of yours you shared and explained was fantastic. Cool methods to stay on top, to increase sales, and even expand in a red ocean market. Thank you so much for your insights and for your time and efforts. And for the audience, NASSCOM Product Conclave is approaching, as you know, on 5th and 6th of November. So great, amazing summits, plenary sessions, product showcases, all coming up. So for more information and to register yourself, please visit www.productconclave.in. And I'll be seeing you on 12th of September on a different webinar from the product management series. Stay tuned for more information. Thank you, Nivas, and thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, NASSCOM, for hosting me, and thanks so much, everyone, for staying all the way till the end. I really appreciate it. I haven't seen the attendees drop down, so I'm super happy, and I just hope it was valuable for all of you. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Would love to be connected, and would love to take the conversation. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.